Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Action for the Soul. This week's Parashat is Perashat Re'eh. This is one of my favorite parashiyot. So let's just put everything into context. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but this Shabbat is Shabbat Mevorchim. This is the Shabbat where we are welcoming in the month of Elul, which means we have about 5.5 weeks before Rosh Hashanah, which is kind of terrifying that the summer has come and it's almost gone. And we're getting ready for this awesome day. The Parshat begins with this idea of Re'eh Anochi Noten Lefnechem Hayom Bracha V'Klala. The know today, see, vision, Re'eh, that I have placed before you this thing called a blessing and a curse. And there are Chachamim that point out that the word Hayom is a reference to Rosh Hashanah. That Hayom today is this reference of this awesome day. Right, because Perashat Re'eh always comes out in between either the Shabbat before or after Rosh Chodesh Elul, okay, and therefore it's always there's always a connection. Elul is always the segue month, the stepping stone month into the month of Tishrei, into the month of Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the year. They also say that the word Re'eh itself is an acronym. That Re'eh is an acronym for Rosh Elul Hayom. Today is the beginning of Elul. That this is a time for a tremendous amount of simcha and joy. Why? Because the month of Elul represents our ability of connecting to the ultimate, infinite being. Okay, we say that Melech Besadeh, the imagery of a king coming out to the field, of visiting the commoners, that's you, that's me, we, the commoners, having an opportunity of connecting to something so high. I often speak about how the summer is the time of tremendous amount of spiritual growth. It's a time where we have the ability of developing ourselves on the highest levels, even though we're so distracted with the summer. That distraction is a reflection of the potential that is here. Remember that when we're pulled in one direction, it's because we have the ability of growing in the opposite direction. There's always a counterweight, and therefore the summer becomes a time of tremendous amount of distraction that removes my ability of focusing on my growth. But if you're mindful of that, when you're feeling the most distracted, when you're feeling the most down and depressed, when you're feeling the most lost, that is the time to push yourself against the grain, to push yourself against the flow that you find yourself being sucked into. So Moshe, again, this is Perashat Re'eh, is in the book of Devarim. It's the last of the 5 books. These words were stated sometime in the last 36 days of Moshe's life. Okay, and he says, Re'eh Anochi Noten Lefnechem Hayom. See that I'm giving you this thing called Rosh Hashanah, the day where you can prepare yourselves on these days for a tremendous amount of great judgment. But how do you get there? What's the prep like? Okay. So this is what the prep looks like. He says, Re'eh, you first have to have a vision. It's interesting that the wording, the phraseology that is used over here is Re'eh, see. I don't want you to hear Shema, Anochi Noten Lefnechem, which would make more sense grammatically even. And then when we talk about like the grammar itself, the verse itself is written in a very curious kind of way. It says, Re'eh Anochi, say, I have placed before Noten Lefnechem. I have placed before, see that I, in the singular, have placed before you in the plural. Okay, and the Chachamim ask, why does he switch tenses, right? He should be saying everything in the plural because he's talking to the plural, he's talking to the masses. So they point out that this very powerful idea, Rosh Hashanah and the summer months are not just the time for my personal growth. You're all familiar with the famous metaphor of a man who purchases an expensive seat on a boat, and the boat is sailing, it's out at sea, and all of a sudden the man pulls out from his bag a drill, and he starts drilling down, he's grinding down into the boat. And there's little patches of this little hole is beginning, and now water is coming into the boat. And people are getting upset. They call the captain. The captain comes over, and he says, "Excuse me, sir, what are you doing?" And he says, "Well, I'm just drilling a hole under my seat." He's like, "You can't drill a hole under your seat." He's like, "Well, it's my private spot. I paid for the seat. I own this seat. It's my private spot, my private space. I can do whatever I want in my private space." He's like, "No, you can't. Even in your private space, you have the ability of impacting the people around you. It's not just about you." And that's what this time is. Re'eh Anochi, be mindful of yourselves. Anochi is you. He's talking to you. You, my friends, have the power of impacting Lifnechem, everything around you. There is no vacuum in Judaism. There is no reality where you do not have the power of impacting your environment. Everything that you and I do has the ability of making massive change. I spoke about this in my class earlier in the week. I mentioned it's worth mentioning again. Every single creature on the planet is completely aligned with its environment. It knows exactly what it needs to do and how to interact with everything around them, with every other animal, with every other creature, with nature, and so on and so forth. That is true for every creature on the planet except for you and me. Okay? You and I have no idea what we're supposed to be doing here. We're making it up as we go along. We like to believe that we know what's going on, but in reality, we have no clue. Okay? And hopefully some of us are more graceful about it. We smile, we nod, we wave, and we try to do what we can on this beautiful long journey. But Chachamim point out something interesting. They point out that a person who lies awake at night and sits down idly, that person is in trouble, right? Why? Because every moment of life is a journey. Every moment of our being is opportunity. And if you and I are here right now, and we're having this conversation, for those of you that are here with me on Zoom and those of you that will watch this later, we don't believe in accidents. Everything is purposeful. You're here at this specific unique time on your journey, and everything around you is in constant motion, except for sometimes you and me, because we get stuck, we get confused, we're lacking clarity. But I just want you to be aware of the fact that even though right now you think some of you are comfortable wherever you are right now, whether in bed or at a table or standing, listening to this, everything around you is actually in motion. The planet is moving. The solar system that we're in is moving. The sun, but believe it or not, actually it's stationary, but it's actually moving. Our whole environment is moving. The table in front of you, the room, the walls are actually moving. Everything around you is vibrating. Everything is movement is life. But when you and I get stuck, it's because there's a lack of vision. And there's two parts to this lack of vision. One is we don't realize how you can't do it for yourself. At the very least, recognize that what you don't do has the ability of impacting the people around you. And what you do has the power of impacting the people around you. So I would much rather be a bee. I like to think of humans as bees, but we're spiritual bees, right? A bee, buzzes around, and what does it do all day? It's working, but what is he doing? He's pollinating. He's trying to figure out a way of creating honey for the hive. He's building the hive. He's taking care of his environment. He's the farmer, the insect farmer that literally brings life to the whole entire planet. That is what a bee is, right? But a human being is like a bee also. We're supposed to be social. We're supposed to be working. When we do positive things, we're bringing down spiritual shefa. We're bringing positive, powerful energy into the world. We are the spiritual pollinators of the planet. And by the way, I have a suspicion, this is based on the Zohar, that when we do not spiritually pollinate the earth, when we are not bringing down spiritual energy into the planet, what ends up happening? Our non-Jewish neighbors, they feel a loss. They feel a lack of connection to spirituality. And that lack of connection to spirituality often translates into what I call anti-Semitism. Right? And that's the root cause of it, because it's irrational, it's spiritual, right? It makes no sense. Can't explain it. Can't articulate why are this group hated more than any other group. And there's a reason for that, because we have a unique purpose in this world. Our purpose is to be the Or L'Goyim, the Mamlechet Kohanim, the light unto the nations, the people that are able to bring down spiritual power into the world around us. When we fail to do that, there's a vacuum that takes place, a loss of spirituality, and we're responsible for it. And therefore you and I are blamed for it. Okay. One second. Anyway, moving on. So let's keep unpacking that pasuk for a minute. Okay. So Re'eh anochi noten lefnechem hayom. You and I have the power of making that change. Okay. So what does he tell us to do? How do we live life to its fullest? I am placing before you today this thing called the blessing and the curse. Okay. But let's read it a little differently. Moshe is saying, Re'eh anochi noten lefnechem hayom. See, I want you to visualize this. Visualize I'm placing this thing called today before you. Ready? This is the Kutzker. He says, how you use today will determine whether or not it's a bracha or a klala. What does bracha and klala mean? What does blessing and curse? What are these things? Does God really want to curse you? Does God have like a bag of like curses on one side and says, oh yeah, you're going to get this one and that one, and just random things? God has a random box of blessings that he's going to come out and throw at you and so on and so forth. No, we don't believe in that. Okay, we believe that God does everything very purposefully. Okay, there is no accident. There's no randomness. Every day of our lives is an opportunity to prepare for something else. Okay, so this is how it works. This is the way I understand what Moshe is teaching us, at least. He's teaching you that every minute of our lives is an opportunity to make a choice about, do we want to bring blessing into this world? And that blessing represents my ability to be proactively working on becoming a better, greater human being, to be purposeful, to be mindful, to be creative, not to be passive, to be proactive, versus the kala, the curse is when I waste my time. The curse is when I don't develop myself. The curse is when I am not moving. The curse is when I am not using this thing called today, right now, this moment in time, as a way to become a bigger, better, greater human being. That is what Moshe is telling us over here. Re'eh anochi noten lefnechem hayom, right? I am placing before you today, bracha ukala. You choose. And what does he tell us? He says, ubachartem b'chaim. I want you to choose. I want you to choose life. Don't choose death. To be alive means that you see that every single minute of your day is a unique opportunity. You know, we're the first generation in history. Not the first. I would say, from my understanding, there's probably 3 other generations that kind of suffered the way you and I are suffering today. We're suffering in something called the world of abundance, right? We have so much. I didn't have any grandparents that were Holocaust survivors, but I grew up in a community where there were lots of Holocaust survivors, and I saw the tattoos in the arms, and I was a very social person. I was always curious, like, why do you got tattooed? What are those digits? Where'd you get those numbers? Why do so many people have it? And no one ever wanted to speak to me about it as a kid, and I understand and I appreciate why now. But that generation survived some of the most, there's no words to describe the pain, the suffering, loss of family and life and humiliation. And these people were the ones that built the Jewish world that you and I are able to appreciate today. The institutions, the buildings, the state of Israel were built on the backs of survivors. And I know that I'm confident there never will be a Holocaust. Ready? Because God only gives people what they can handle. Our generation can't handle it. There's not going to be another Holocaust. If there was another Holocaust or anything like that today, we would just opt to just jump on the fences and just end the whole thing. No one's fighting anymore. We're so used to the comfort and the luxury of the world that we're in this world of abundance. The other time that this happened was in Rome, okay, a tremendous amount of abundance. And again, before that in Greece. And those 3 times, and maybe in Spain even a little bit also, at certain parts in our history, there were moments of tremendous abundance. But those generations, for a very short period of time, produced tremendous amount of intellectual, spiritual growth, and then they came to a stop. And there's a redeveloping of ideas. And I believe that our generation is in that space where so many people who are going to listen to this, wherever you're coming from, wherever your families are from, we're either 1 or 2 generations in this country in America. We're still immigrants. We're still figuring out how to use the right words to express the ideas of this ancient, beautiful text called the Torah. We're trying to figure out how to find meaning in it and how to express it to another generation, which is so hard to reach. I know, because I'm doing it every single day. So if you don't have a clear picture of how you're using your time for development and growth, you're going to end up, God forbid, with a klala. What's the bracha? The bracha isn't just sitting back and waiting for shefa, for God to send you the lotto ticket. The bracha comes from the ability of maximizing your time. So we're in the month of Elul almost, right? This Shabbat, we're going to announce it. We're in the month of Elul. Ani l'dodi v'dodi li. God is saying, I, my beloved, is my beloved. I love you so deeply. Do you recognize that every minute of your life is a blessing? Do we stop and really just feel a sense of gratitude for everything that I have, because there is nothing that is random? He loves you so much. There's a mitzvah for you to believe that everything that happens for the good, for the best. A mitzvah to believe that. A mitzvah to recognize that this is the time for you to grow. You haven't done it up until now. Okay, great. God is infinite. He has infinite ability to forgive, infinite patience, infinite. Okay? And now the only thing that you and I have is this thing called today. I don't know about tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I have right now. I have, if the day is made up of hours, and hours are made up of minutes, and minutes are made up of seconds, all of that counts. How I use that counts. So what's the strategy? So when Elul comes, most people think, well, you just push on the brakes. Whatever I'm doing, I just got to slow it down. This is a mistake. You see, when you push the brakes, the way the brakes works, the brake pads hold onto the wheel, and they slowly put pressure on the wheel, and you come to a stop, right? This is not the way of Elul. On Elul, if you're driving fast, you pull the emergency brake, you have to come to a complete stop. Okay, this is the time to do that. You're not sure where to go, call your LOR, your local Orthodox rabbi, your mentor, your rebbitzin, the rabbanit, your guru, whoever it is, and come up with a plan of what you're going to do this year to make this year a different year than last year. There's no more excuses. There's no more time. There's no more, I'm uncomfortable, I'm embarrassed, I should have done, I could have. It's nonsense. You have one life to live. It's called Hayom. Today is our life. We have one life, one day. If that's our day. Our life is just one day. And how we use this one day will determine whether or not it's a bracha klala. And you're not here to finish anything, by the way. You're not here to go ahead and complete the task. You're not here to see the results. There are bees that never see the beehive being completed. Because that's not what you and I are here for. We're here to be the best version of ourselves. And the only way you and I can do that is by living a life of simcha, of happiness. What does it mean to be happy? To be happy means that I know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. That I find a way to get aligned with my environment. That I'm able to look at the resources that I have, the time that I have, the position that I'm in, the community that I'm in, the sphere of influence that I have, and I use that to the best of my ability. What happens at the end, that's not on you. You know how many family members I get phone calls from who have children who are either, dating someone who's not Jewish or who is, opting out of being Jewish and so on and so forth. And they call me and ask me for help. Rabbi, can you please come and help me? And of course I want to help. But all too often I get the phone calls very, very late in the game, right? It's too late already. They're in a relationship already. They should have called me before that relationship started, or at the beginning of that relationship, not when they're ready to get engaged. All we have is today. Your responsibility is to make every single minute of it count. That's going to be the difference between you living a life of blessing and a life of curses. The blessing comes from you actualizing the potential now. Re'eh anochi noten lefnechem hayom. I am placing this crazy, powerful thing called today. How you use it, that defines everything. May God bless us with the ability of recognizing how powerfully potent every minute, every second of our lives are. That we should use it to bring out the best of ourselves, because in that process of bringing out the best of ourselves, we're able to bring the best that the world needs. Don't worry about failure. Don't worry about success. Imagine what you would attempt to do if you knew you could not fail. That's the world that you and I are living in that mindset, where it doesn't matter what if you fail or succeed. What matters the most is that you try your hardest to be the best that you can be. And the tool that Moshe is telling us is time. Use it wisely. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Thank you so much for listening.